Do you see a shift in consumer behavior here? We were just starting to see some green shoots as a result of the reopening of states, the demand that was there, as far as what we're seeing now with this civil unrest across the country?
Well, first of all, you got to give a shout out to all the retailers who have stayed open this entire time, done a fantastic job under very trying circumstances, figuring it out and continuing to serve their customers and their communities. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's a very difficult time to be a retailer and to be in business with the potential for store closures, with the COVID coming back potentially. All those sorts of things will present real challenges. So the protests, of course, are a proxy for a very deep concern in this country about where we are and with not just racism, but also, kind of where the country is overall in terms of being divided. So it's a challenging time to be in business, but also one where there's a chance to really step up and serve your customers and your communities.
I know you've been sort of talking and giving presentations about how the world is going to permanently shift and your industry is going to permanently shift as a result of this pandemic. How do you think about whether we're going to see lasting changes to grocery stores and the safety of these essential workers, which this pandemic really shined a light on?
It did shine a light on, and I think that, it put the food system squarely in the headlights. And of course, in some ways, recognizing how essential it is to go to the grocery store and how essential the workers are that make that all happen. But also, on the supply chain, that the difference between the restaurant supply chain and the grocery supply chain and the challenges we had there. Also on the areas in which we need to work harder to make a much safer work environment. But 100%, we're not going back. The digital switch, the adoption we've seen of digital and online grocery, do the math. It's overwhelming in terms of the demand there and the changes. I don't see going back to just strictly an analog version of retail. But I think that the changes have been made around, first of all, safety first and foremost. Second of all, around layout and how you plan for the number of people in the store, around how you merchandise product, around even the economics of being a retailer. I mean, folks are just having to experiment. I was at a store the other day. The sign said, we're out here doing business from 10 to 2. We're just experimenting. And some of these changes around what retail looks like on the other side these are going to be permanent shifts. And we don't have a vaccine. We don't have a vaccine in sight. That's probably a line in the sand. I think the question is really, how do people feel when they go out shopping or go out doing anything? And folks are still a little bit uncomfortable. So I think this thing is sort of slow and unfolds unevenly. And businesses got to find a way to be agile and to adapt and respond and continue to serve their customer.
You mentioned the supply chain. I mean, we got to see some of the vulnerabilities there, certainly in the meat slaughterhouses and the problems there. If we do have a second wave in the fall, like so many medical experts are warning, is the supply chain going to be better prepared this time? Are they taking measures right now to prepare, whether it's in dairy or meat or packaged goods?
Well, I think that's one of the things that's been exposed was the fact the supply chain was so bifurcated between the restaurant world and the retail world. I think folks are trying to figure that out. And we saw for the first time that I can recall, actually, Whole Foods, for example, running out of certain products. And that was true for other stores as well, resulting in them kind of reducing the number of items they offer and trying to tighten up their supply chain so they could be in stock. But I would hope, we've also seen, obviously, the safety issues that happen with respect to some of these larger production plants. So I would hope that any responsible retailer is thinking about now preparing for future of the COVID and our future pandemics, and has learned some lessons around building greater resiliency and redundancy in their supply chain. So I think a lot of those things are happening now. So I would think so. But it's certainly one of the challenges that showed up, and that, no one could have anticipated the demand spike that happened. I mean, we're talking about a surge that was, in some cases 100% over what anybody had seen, and it happened really quickly. It's fallen back into kind of hoarding, and now we're seeing the surge still online. It's 60, 70%. If you look at the earnings reports of some of these public companies, you're seeing the tremendous spike, and really supply chain is not yet caught up with the online surge. But I think it's something where we're seeing folks adapt. The food system is largely stabilized again, except in the protein area where there's still some shortages. But do you realize, Sarah, that the protein demand, I'm talking about meat and seafood, is up something like 50% year over year? So as folks have shifted off of restaurants, them not being open or available, they've gone to cooking at home. And we're seeing a situation where 10 years ago, maybe 41% of people, cooked at home. Now it's well over 50% people cooking at home. And so they go out and they buy the things they need in order to prepare their meals with their families. And so it's put a lot of pressure on the supply chain.